is a really difficult time. You really got to kind of work it in. Some people will come right out and just start spilling their guts about how bad the divorce, and sometimes you really got to dance around the issue. But one thing you do want to know is
the husband and wife are no longer in charge. They no longer can make their own decisions unless they're joint decisions and they're in writing. That has to happen in divorce. You have to have an agreement in writing to sell the house. It's not allowed without that. Sometimes the court orders it. Usually the court doesn't order it until at the end of the process. But a lot of times we want to get the process started now. Is
the decision to sell agreed upon by both parties?
Okay.
And this will also go to Nick after Kevin.
actually, so that's actually, I'm sorry, Jessica, that's actually part of the answer. So the question is, what are some questions that you ask someone going through a divorce when they're selling their home? But before I answer that, I think if I was on your side of the panel, the first question I would ask the realtor is, where do you find these people? Right? You guys are here to increase your business and you want to, so where do you find these people that are getting divorced? And so I'll tell you, you go to the Facebook group, I'm recently divorced and looking for a realtor. Don't write that down. That was a joke. There's no such thing, okay? I wish that was I wish it was that easy.
You surprised. There is actually a Facebook group, Are We Dating the Same Guy?
Right. No, there's not. I wish it were that easy. But so the short answer is, you find these people the same way you find any people. You put yourself in front of prospects daily. Like some of you experienced realtors know, if you survive 5 years or 10 years, you know that the secret is the secret to everything. Get out of your house and get in front of prospects every single day. And then you come to events like this so that you have the knowledge to win the listing, to impress those people. So when that person walks into your open house and says, this woman walks in and says,
I'm just looking for a 3-bedroom because I'm going through a divorce.
Then you can start asking the questions that's going to show that person you know how to deal with this. And so when I go through the questions on what to ask, these aren't necessarily questions that you need the answer for. These are questions that you need to know that they have the answer for. Right. So yeah, is the decision to sell agreed upon by both parties? That's good to know. And look, when someone walks into your open house or you meet someone at a happy hour or whatever, and they say, this is a really difficult time, you really got to kind of work it in. Some people will come right out and just start spilling their guts about how bad the divorce, and you can maybe get some of these in. And sometimes you really got to dance around the issue. But one thing you do want to know is you want to make sure that both parties have agreed to sell. I mean, you don't want to, you're wasting your time otherwise. I guess they've just discussed the terms of the sale with their divorce attorneys, if they even have one involved. Some people will come in and say,
we're thinking about getting divorced, or we're getting divorced, but they haven't done anything yet.
Right? So how are profits divided? That's real easy, but you want to make sure they've at least thought about how losses will be divided and how expenses are going to be divided that come up during the sale. So they all will know how they're going to divide the loss, 50-50 or whatever, but they need to at least have thought about, when they get the contract, the buyer comes back and says, we need a new roof, and they've got a $6,000 deductible. Just make sure that they've already kind of have a plan on how that's going to be handled, because that could be a deal breaker if they haven't at least thought it through. Are both parties going to be available to sign? Is it a contentious divorce? Is it amicable? What the timeline is? How am I going to communicate with you? Usually at first you might be just dealing with one person, the wife. How do they want you to communicate with them? Are there any specific, if they've gotten this far, are there any specific agreements or conditions that need to be adhered to in the divorce agreement? Not necessarily any of your business, but you need to just make sure that they've thought that through, and because that's a question that the title company is going to want to know too.
Can you repeat that, Kevin?
Are there any specific terms or condition that need to be adhered to according to the divorce agreement?
Okay, so what are some examples of that?
Maybe our attorney could answer that.
I have a divorce decree right now to where at closing, which is why I need the sales price. They haven't agreed on the adjusted sales price, but once I get the adjusted sales price, there's a calculation that I have to do to regards the net proceeds. I have to take 10% of the top give it to the husband, and then from the rest is another calculation I have to do, but that's all listed in the divorce decree.
Gotcha.
Like that.
So, like, if the wife says, "I want all the family heirlooms, all the jewels," and the husband says, "That's fine, but it's going to come out of your portion of the profit from the house sale," all of that is a part of the divorce decree.
Usually personal property like that, I don't have anything to do with, just that part that involves the real estate.
As far as, you're both right. I mean, that's part of the negotiations is this asset for that. You're dealing with retirement assets. They're dealing with investments, sometimes companies, which is a big pain in the divorce process, and then real estate. Sometimes it's a rental house or 4 rental houses and the marital residence. Usually it's just the marital residence. And it could be any number of calculations. Like you probably see the craziest calculations.
Yes, sir.
But a lot of it has to do with all the rest of the negotiations because there's 2 big pots to divide, the retirement and the house. But at the very beginning of the case, as soon as that divorce is filed, the husband and wife are no longer in charge. They no longer can make their own decisions unless they're joint decisions and they're in writing. And hopefully they have a lawyer. Both of them have their own separate lawyer. Otherwise, it's really difficult for you all because there's rules that had to be adhered to by the court. Every county, I deal with all the counties around here, mainly Collin, Denton, and Dallas. I do all the peripherals too, but they all have what's called standing orders. Every county has standing orders that are attached to the petition. That's the pleading that starts the divorce. And those set forth the rules for the divorce. And those rules, in layman's terms, are you can't do anything unless you agree or we approve it. The judge approves it. Most of the time, 90% of the time, the parties approve that. We approve. So the first question I ask, the first 2 questions I ask when a new client comes in, like they did at 8:30 this morning, is, all right, what are y'all going to do with the house? Are you going to keep it? Is she going to keep it? Or are y'all going to sell it? And have you talked about the terms? That's the first. Usually it's, no, we haven't, or yeah, we're splitting it, or I'm going to keep it and pay her out of retirement, whatever. And so we've got to get that figured out. And hopefully there's another lawyer who's good, and we can reach an agreement because you can't sell that house unless the court orders it or there's an agreement. And the agreements we write up normally are called Rule 11 agreements. We file them.
Rule 11, write that down. Rule 11.
And so that has to happen in divorce. You have to have an agreement in writing to sell the house. It's not allowed without that. Sometimes the court orders it. Usually the court doesn't order it until at the end of the process. But a lot of times we want to get the process started now. Hypothetically, it is February. We know this divorce is going to last 6 or 8 months. We've got to get that house on the market by May 1 or April 1 or whatever y'all recommend. I know the summer is a hot month.
Nick, sorry to interrupt you. Would you recommend that before we work with someone that we ask for, hey, do you have a Rule 11?
Before you work with, if they're going through divorce, you've got to be in touch with both lawyers.
Okay, so we need both attorneys. One pulls us into the deal.
Don't necessarily take what the parties say as what it's actually the truth, because they may not know, okay? It's important if the lawyers are involved, that you get both lawyers on an email stream and say, hey, they've come to me, or usually it's the lawyers recommend a realtor. I can get into that later on how we do that. But usually it's, okay, we found this realtor, what's the agreement on how we split this up? And the lawyers have to be involved in that. We have to have an agreement in writing during the divorce process. Of course, after the divorce process, it's in the decree. It's real easy.